Priti Patel is proposing a Rwandan migrant centre, which is an amazing sentence I thought I'd never say. And to kick this off as to why this has come about, in case someone doesn't know, there's a video of yet more migrants coming over on the taxi force that is the British Border Force. There have been people sending me videos of this literally every day.
Yeah.
They keep sending me, hey, you guys should talk about this, you guys should talk about this. And we have in the past, and this just keeps coming and keeps coming, so it's kind of, drumming down on the fact that it keeps happening. But as you can see there, no women or children, all men. Loads of them.
Hasn't it got to something like 500 a day?
Ridiculous numbers. Well, we'll see the numbers in a minute.
Illegally crossing.
So if we go to the next link, Migration Watch does a fantastic job on this. Everyone should like them on Facebook, follow them, whatever you can, because they're great on this subject. But if we go to the first image, this is the numbers in which you're talking about, which is how many have been crossing per month.
Right.
So you can see here, between the years, 2018, not that long ago, basically nothing, but it started to become a problem in November, December.
Well, it started becoming a problem in 2020.
But there we go. But I mean, it started getting significant notice in those years.
Yeah.
And then 2019, 2020, and then Nigel Farage out there, all the rest of it. And, we spoke about this, I think, last July 2020, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And look, it just keeps exploding. It just keeps getting bigger.
Yeah.
There's no stopping this.
And we've covered this previously, where it's just migrants from France, just...
Yeah, because I don't know, they're just all
The
wearing garlic
country.
with their baguettes and their little berets jumping over. Yeah, that's what's happening. So Priti Patel has come up with the plans for the offshore migrant hub, which something about that phrase makes me laugh. So Priti Patel will introduce laws next week to enable the government to send asylum seekers abroad for processing, as she opens talks with Denmark over sharing a centre in Africa. So you come here on the channel. We'll send you to Africa, and we can be processed over there. And if you fail, oh, too bad. Enjoy your life. And if you succeed, then you can come back to Britain, and we will house you because you are a legitimate asylum seeker, which many are not. Many are not. Particularly those getting over the border.
All of these people who are going are not. Let's be honest. If you're a bunch of young men who are like, right, we're gonna commandeer a dinghy in France, sail out into the English Channel and try and reach Dover, that's not legitimate.
Yeah, I mean, we covered previously. There was a case in which. What was it? One guy died in the channel, and the media went out, oh no, a child has died in the channel, and then it turned out he was an adult who had stolen a dinghy and a couple of metal oars.
Yeah.
And then
shovels.
Him and his friends were like trying to shovel their way across the channel, and he shoveled it into his own dinghy, flattened it, and then drowned. And it was like, right, you guys are just morons. Like, I'm sorry, that's a Darwin Award.
And it is a Darwin Award, and you're breaking the law.
So, this comes from Denmark, as mentioned, and you can see here, Denmark orders Syrian refugees to go home. And there was a quote previously, I couldn't find it, in which the Danish Minister for Immigration gave a statement, I think it was the BBC or something. He was like, yes, I hope sending them all to Africa will stop them coming. It was so unbelievably just blunt. He was just like, nah, just sod off. I have no interest. Yeah. So, if we go back to the next one here, just something to mention of the government data that is available for those getting across the channel, because I made a video on this a while back. I looked into it. The government says on their data, overwhelmingly those claiming to come by dinghy are Iranian. They are the ones claiming to do that. And The Guardian on the ground here also reporting that the people on the ground say that they're mostly Iranians. No war. No war. Could be homosexual. Maybe that's why you want to flee Iran. In which case, you could go to France. You could go to Germany.
You'd be pretty safe in France or Germany.
They're not... Well, I suppose in Paris it's a different question, but in rural France you'd be all right. Anyway.
Yeah. In Normandy you should be fine.
So if we go to the next link here, this is back to the article. So they say the Nationality and Borders Bill. So this is the bill that she's been bigging up for a long time that we keep hearing about. She's apparently about to introduce it. So will include a provision to create an offshore immigration processing centre for asylum seekers for the first time. You remember previously she spoke about putting this in Gibraltar, which made no sense to anyone who's been to Gibraltar. There's no room. There's no room for even a house, never mind a migrant facility.
And what did the Gibraltars do to deserve this?
So Boris Johnson is said to be keen on the plan after the arrival in Britain this year of more than 5,600 migrants who have crossed the channel in small boats. The Times has learnt that the Home Office ministers and officials have discussed their proposals with their counterparts in Denmark, which passed its own law this month to process asylum seekers outside of Europe. And this is the thing. You remember, I think we spoke about this last time, that she was saying, if you come here via dinghy, if you come here through Europe, we found out which country you come from through Europe, we're deporting you back to that country in Europe. All of the European countries are like, no, we're just not going to take them. Like, we know this person's come from us, and we're just not going to take them because we know their chances as well. In which case, the guys in Denmark and now us have taken the approach, well, if they're not going to take them, we'll send them to Africa. We'll find some African country that wants them, and we'll have them processed over there instead.
stop laughing.
So then there's a question on the countries like, Greece or Italy or France, like, oh, you want to criticize us for this, do you? Well, we offered to send them to you, and you said no. So, I mean, if you don't want them going there, you can always take them. Don't worry. So it's a nice little trap as well.
That is.
So the EU is like, oh, you can't do this. And it's like, yeah, okay, well, then take them back. No.
But we can pay someone else to deal with them.
So the Danish as well being the forefront of the policy of scare chancers. So people who want to come there who are just chancers, lying. Yeah. So you just scare them into leaving. So previously they just, what was it? They took belongings from the asylum seekers.
Yeah, anything over €1,000 in value.
Yeah. So this is another way of doing that. So Denmark is said to be planning to send asylum seekers to a centre in Rwanda. 2 Danish ministers went to the Commonwealth country last month to sign a memorandum on asylum and immigration. A British government source said, "We've had conversations to see what the Danes are doing."
I mean, it just sounds like a threat, doesn't it? We're going to send you to Rwanda.
Oh, man. I was expecting a hotel, 3 stars in Britain, and I'm in Rwanda.
It was 4 stars in Britain, actually.
Oh, jeez. The Home Office has also studied Australia's policy, which bans asylum seekers from travelling by sea and redirects them to an offshore immigration accommodation centres in neighbouring states such as Papua New Guinea. This is something everyone around the world has been looking at with envy, let's be honest. The Australians have figured that question out. And it was the right thing to do, saved a lot of lives, because you don't have them making this unbelievably
perilous
treacherous
trip.
journey. Yeah. So, fantastic. We want a version of that. Apparently, we weren't able to get one with sending them to St. Helena or something, which is a shame. And instead, we're going to follow the Danes to Rwanda. The bill's primary goal
St. Helena's tiny as well.
You can still build one camp there. It's better than Gibraltar.
I don't know if you can, actually.
I think you could. There's plenty of room.
There's not. That's the thing. But I'll talk about it.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, I've been on Google Earth. I can see that.
Yeah, but there's not, because it's all inaccessible rock. And then you've got this one very small valley where the settlement is. I happen to know because I have ancestors who come from St. Helena.
If we just bulldoze Napoleon's house and we use that.
Yeah.
So the bill's primary goal is to deport migrants who enter Britain illegally to the European countries through which they travelled. Ministers have failed, however, to achieve bilateral deals with any EU state, and talks with France, most important player, have been non-existent. The French won't even talk to us about the idea of sending them back to France because they clearly came from France.
Okay.
In which case, they're going to Rwanda. France, have you got anything to say about this? Zip. Nada. Because if they say it's wrong, well, then you can take them, don't worry.
What's wrong with Rwanda?
So a government source gives a quote on all this, and they say, correctly, "The numbers have a psychological and political impact that goes far beyond the actual numbers involved. The idea that people are coming, apparently at will, even if it's a relatively small proportion of immigration to the UK, doesn't exactly give the impression that we're in control, especially when people are washing up in dinghies. The only way to really tackle this problem is to tackle the pull factors, which is what the ideas around offshore processing and the presumption that if you cross illegally, then your asylum application are going to be treated less favourably than legal routes are about." Correct.
Very sensible.
You can argue that it's a small number of that compared to the national migration we get every year. Totally true. The amount of migration we get legally every year is still crazy, never mind illegal by other routes. And this is smaller, but it's a massively growing problem, and you need to curb that now.
Yes.
Because otherwise it will continue to be exponentially growing.
And fundamentally, there's simply no moral argument in favour of it. You're in a safe country, you're breaking the law, you're putting your own life at risk, and you're expecting to become a burden on the British taxpayer. Sorry, no.
Everything about this particular instance of illegal migration is wrong on every level, and that's why it has such a political will about it. I love the point the Home Office also makes about the fact that it shows they're not in control.
Yeah.
You aren't. It's a great point. I mean, even Tony Blair is able to make this point. That he says, if you want to control if you want to be in charge of migration and make a positive case for it, then you need to show you control it. Tony Blair, so snake. But at the same time, he's completely correct.
Yeah.
So, this is also spurred on by Boris Johnson's apparent views on the topic, which are strong. So this is an article a while back in which it says Boris Johnson furious at Priti Patel over migrant channel crossing, and to be honest, most of the country is, because she keeps talking a big game but then isn't able to get the thing done. As you mentioned with the French solution of sending them back to France, that's not been possible because the French aren't talking, so we're sending them to Rwanda. So in here it says, according to the source, Johnson told the minister, "What the F is the Home Office doing when she, Patel, going to sort this out?" So him being extremely angry with her, rightfully, because the public are angry with her and the Home Office on this issue.
And therefore him.
I don't know what the legalities are of it, but every proposal she seems to bring forward, so the last one being, we'll just send them back to the EU country they came from. If the EU country just says no, well, then what she wants to do legally. So we'll send them to Rwanda is the answer. So
if their government are prepared to be the recipient of the money that we're going to give them to process these applications, then what's the problem?
So the glorious Rwandan government is taking on us on this deal, but at the same time, Ho's mad, because Ho's always mad, ain't they? So here's the first Ho who is mad, Claudia Webb, MP, not Labour MP.
Just want to point out that we're not actually besmirching Claudia Webb's honour in this case. We're not accusing her of actually being a hoe.
Oh, I'll besmirch her for being an idiot, though.
Oh, sure.
Like, you're like unbelievable idiot on a million things, but this is...
She's a Labour MP, after all.
Yeah. The Tory government created an unaccountable, violent system to oppress, terrorise and imprison undocumented people and asylum seekers.
Then you'd think they'd stay home, right? If that was what's really happening, why would they come?
Like, that's what they've already done. They're already terrorising these asylum
and people
seekers.
are putting themselves at risk to get to this oppression.
And they're like, I love it, I love it. I suppose there's
oppress me with a 4-star hotel, daddy.
Some Priti Patel domination memes in there somewhere. So she continues with the biggest take of all. These are human beings who've escaped countries torn apart by the legacy of British colonialism and imperialism.
You mean countries that were created by British colonialism that didn't exist before?
But also they're coming from France, lady.
Like
I know Waterloo was a big L for the French, but I didn't realise we did that much damage to France. That the Battle of Waterloo has caused the situation that France is currently in. Our fault.
I love this. She's like, look, I'm going to condemn the British. Why? Because they've ruined France.
France, a bastion of everything up until Waterloo, and then it's just destroyed.
If it helps France, I view you as our equals and not our inferiors, unlike Claudia.
But I forgot at the same time, they were all Syrian migrants, though, Claudia. Remember how they're all fleeing the Syrian war? 100% of them? None of them are chancers. They're totally legitimate asylum seekers. Who was Syria owned by? It was owned by France. It wasn't owned by the British.
I love this story so much.
So, again, not us. Don't ask us to do anything. But also, as mentioned previously...
But the assumption underneath it is that basically Britain controls the entire world. Everyone in it lives at our expense and our pleasure. You know, it's we're the grand puppeteers, even though this was France and French colonies and nothing to do with us.
Okay. I love the anti-British propaganda with it's a spider that controls everything.
Basically, yeah. But they've got to make us out to be so ridiculously powerful.
Didn't even lift a finger, and we destroyed France and Syria in one go with our colonialism. Anyway, so then the last point is also, as mentioned previously, they're all saying they're from Iran when they get here, off the dinghies. They're all ticking the Iranian box. In which case, what? Iran was never taken over by the British and turned into a protectorate.
Tangentially, you could claim it was, I suppose.
But then also by the Russians at the same time.
Sure.
Because they're invaded in the Second World War as well, in which case this is the Russians' fault. I mean, it's just no thinking whatsoever. But I'm glad to know that Waterloo really did mess up France that bad.
Yeah, but Claudia Webb did tweet out a picture of European colonization of Africa with the caption, "This is what they were hiding from us." And it's like, Claudia, that's literally taught to every child in Britain when in secondary school.
Yeah.
Like, anyway.
As a point of pride. So then they have the next Ho who is mad, Femi. Of course, Femi's mad. Priti Patel says we're going to start sending scared and desperate refugees to offshore camps where they'll be outside the reach of the UK's human rights protections. No, just no, this can't happen. They could just stay in France, Femi. Could just stay in France and wait for their asylum application to be accepted.
I mean, why are they desperate if they're living in France at the moment? Do they not have human rights protections in France, Femi?
It's almost like they've applied in France and they've been rejected for being a
Because they're
liar.
grifters?
I mean, take the case we spoke to previously about the guy who died in the channel after being a dunce. He had applied for asylum in France. He was rejected. That's why he made the retarded trip to try and get on a boat with some shovels. That's why he did that. Because he was not a legitimate asylum seeker. It's that simple.
But Femi has defined him as scared and desperate.
From what?
From a lack of money.
Justice? Like, he's broken the law. He's broken into France. And he's like, I want to go to Britain. And he's like, yeah, he's scared and desperate.
His Gibbs, that's why.
No, we're
scared that he won't get his Gibbs.
He can go to the local centre for immigration and they will happily pay for a flight for him to go back. We do that in the UK. Voluntary deportation is a thing. We pay for it. It costs a lot of money. Anyway, also...
I'm worried about that now, I know about it.
Well, it's one way of getting rid of them. And one of the other points here is that he's like, oh, poor scared asylum seekers. Yeah, the last 7 terrorist incidents we've had in the UK, 3 of them have been asylum seekers. This is not to mention just like the example in Glasgow, in which one of them stabbed 2 people. I think he killed a police officer or something. And then we have the other examples of just community problems, all the rest of it, not to mention the money and all the rest of it, of fake asylum seekers. You know, there are a million things to say that we process you elsewhere, and if you're legitimate, then we bring you here, and, you know, we will take care of you.
It's not like ISIS weren't very public about the fact that they were going to be sending infiltrators with the refugees as well, but, you know.
So there's also one more homad here, who's just funny. I don't know who this is, some verified checkmark. That's a cute way of saying concentration camp. Don't worry, Habibi. Because Denmark is doing all of this, and they're, remember, what was it? Democratic Socialists? It'll be a Democratic Socialist concentration camp, so nothing to worry about there.
And it'll be run by black people in Rwanda as well. So it's not going to be white supremacy. So
don't worry about it.
Yeah,
just don't worry about it. But that's just also really stupid. Like, we go to the last one here. This is Ian Blackford whining, because of course he is. Patel's disgusting plan to hold migrants in offshore hubs sparks fury.
Why don't you volunteer your own house, Ian?
Yeah, you can take 5. I'm sure you got the bedrooms. If Priti Patel wants to send asylum seekers to Rwanda, she'll have a fight on her hands, not in our name.
What's wrong with Rwanda? You racist?
We could all send them to Scotland as well.
Yeah. But is it because they're black in Rwanda? Is that why you have a problem with them? Yeah. And I really want to know. I really want your answer on this, because I can't see any other reason that you would have a problem with Rwanda.
Not at all. So we go to the next one. This is just Andrew Bridgen, who I quite appreciate, actually, as a Conservative MP. He's doing some good stuff. I've seen him giving interviews to alternative media a lot as well, which is great. We should reach out to him to get him. Anyway, so he says, we need to deter illegal immigrants from falling into the hands of unscrupulous people traffickers. Offshore assessment centres will act as a deterrent and end this miserable trade. Yes, while protecting the rights of genuine qualifying victims seeking asylum.
Because it's important to note that the genuine qualifying victims will apply through the bureaucracy and be accepted and then be given tickets to a flight. And they won't have to go across the English Channel on a dinghy.
Because it's demonstrable.
Yes.
Like when someone applies who is a legitimate asylum seeker who deserves everything we can give them to get them here safely, you will know. And you will feel very much sympathy for them instead of hatred in the example of those trying to cross in dinghies because Gibbs. And as an example of this, if you want to see someone who's not taking the piss, if you go to the next link here, this is the interview Josh did with Ji-Yoon Park, who is a defector from North Korea, who was in China and managed to get her out, and then she's now in the UK. And you watch something like that, and this is why this gets me so mad, because you can look at these guys, these chancers who just want to come across because Gibbs, and then you look at a genuine asylum seeker, as Andrew was talking out, the difference is day and night. The interviews you've seen, as on the Moroccan border with the guys trying to break into Spanish territory, what did they say? There's no jobs in Morocco, so I'm going to Spain.
It's not how this works.
Not her circumstance.
Yeah.
You know, compare what she went through to Gibbs' job. It's no, there is no debate. So go and sign up for lotusseeds.com to go and see that, because that's premium and it's totally worth your time.
What she went through is horrific as well. Just to be clear, like I've only had the sort of overview of it, and already it's just like, right, okay, it's too much.
But then you just, you look at that, and then you look at these chances, and it's just like, right, that's why everyone hates the chances. It's not because, I hate immigrants, or I hate asylum seekers, or something like this. No, I hate liars. I hate people who are trying to take advantage of our system. And you know what they're doing as well? They are taking a place of someone like that. They are taking a place of someone genuine who deserves our resources, help. To be honest. We will spend treasure to trying to defend some people who really need the help. And when people take advantage of that and take their space instead, the hell with them. Absolutely the hell with them. So I hope they enjoy their stay in Rwanda.
If you enjoyed this segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can watch the full broadcast live every weekday at 1 PM UK time on lotuseaters.com.